Check it out, 1, 2. Steady undercover, duck, don't move. This is stick up jack for the melody, beats and grooves. A 10 steady school pack of fine tools. The most unusual crew with the most eloquent orchestrating the moves. Danger, my man's flow is spherical. Similar, my tongue is lyric. Arsenal, bold headlines, reading the article. Murder Ramon, let it be known. Spitting two-tongue Bolivian street orator to the core from the street corridor. My stopping ground renowned, been show the shot town with a crown in the pitchfork pound. What was the sound in the background? Most start with high tops, breathe out with shice crops. You could catch a quick red like a stop. Or go for greed in the valley of the rope. With caution, most yellow bellies get wrapped up in the choke. Scrapping for the diamond, but get smacked with the cold. Majority, I believe this the place to be, but I can't guarantee that sweet chivalry. It's the good, bad, and ugly, based on what I see. This place makes a backbone that weather's reality. January's ice, July is hot tea, and the almighty is my hope when I grieve. My people getting cooked in the beef, so we echo the words to get free. Plus, bring the meat to the matter, no matter how the grease to scatter. My papa cooked the purest batter, so take a taste of the heaven sent with that street medicine. Best be hesitant, cause it's line from the urban tenement. Got fangs covered in relevant sentiment. Suave. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. Freedom, that's what my people say. Where you at? Check it out, yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. Check it, freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, come on, check it out.
From the strut and the step to getting buck for the rep. It's all a cry for when awakening to those that have slept. Don't let the outer core cause you to let judgment pass through. Help emancipate and plan to fade. Someone has to, I ask you to join this regiment in the trenches and bring an optimistic aroma to all of the senses. Defenseless are the opponents. Take freedom and own it. They comprise the components to change our lives as we know it. From poets to politicians, there's no one to stop our mission. And those that have stopped to listen have grown when they caught the vision. Listen to your city speak, tune your ears with precision. Then answer the call with constructive criticism. Lift and remove the blame as we soothe the pain. Keep in mind, sometimes we gotta lose to gain. Aim for the promised land like the sand on the seashore. Then look ahead so you can see what to reach for. We need more troops that'll shoot for the truth and loosen the news to produce the new rooted fruits of the youth groove. And coinciding with the spirit, your freedom is here, cause when it talks, I can hear it.
Yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Check it out, 1, 2. Come on, yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. Freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah.
Sky and landscape drapes adjacent to our retinas, letting us experience samples of what's been set for us. We better clutch and get a touch of the rush before it dissipates. We men of faith that penetrate the interstates that generate
the pace, cause we hustle over breaks. Hip hop was live bait, so we ate until our freight was full. In the belly of the beast, yo, the fatty wall is deep, but we dagger to the meat, slicing through the cycle of the street.
Sweeping through metros, outskirts and pueblos. Let's grow through thresholds, mold and let go of everything that brings weight down on our spine. Our backbone's the foundation that supports in the mind.
Up in some desperate times, a Vietnam time bomb similar to the state we on. We scrap for crumbs with punctured lungs, so BR will spit with tongues. Freedom in the midst of the middle of the evening. Freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. I check it. Freedom, that's what my people say. I check it out, 1, 2. Come on, yeah, come on. Freedom, that's what my people say. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people want. Yeah, freedom, that's what my people say. Come on. Check it out, 1, 2, get that freedom. Freedom, come on, and now here. 1, 2, freedom, come on. Now, get down, now go to the youth. Yeah, freedom.
So I'm reading about pointers in Golang because I'm planning on using Golang, and I work with people who use Golang. I used pointers when I wrote C++. Back when I was with Missile Defense, I remember doing reference counting, and we had a helper library. And I remember if you didn't use pointers correctly, you could crash the whole program. In two different ways. So not just one way to crash a program, but there were two ways to crash a program with pointers. And so the question for me is like, well, I haven't been using pointers for a long time. So there's languages where I don't need to worry about pointers and reference counting. So why is Golang using pointers? And so I'm getting familiar, reacquainted with pointers. Let's see. People have been adding music.
Survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say here for survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say they call me criminal 'cause I'm breaking the law. Across the border with the saw, with a fence to the jaw. Met coyotes with 40s, they told me to crawl. Never walk through the desert, you'll be seen by the guards. It would have been better to rap through the sharks, hitting Cuba in the dark and leaving the dark. Undercover, and guiding the stars. But be careful of the moon, it might reveal your plot. From Rio Grande to the block, from Adiel to the march. Groceries in the hands 'cause we feeling the knocks. And some facing home, overcome with the shock. And since 9/11, we've been hunted like dogs. Fled our motherland 'cause the conditions are starved. But they call us spies, like we killers with plots. But reality is rock, my memories are scars. I want a new start, where can you respect my spot? Here for survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say here for survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say access denied from the first moment I tried to flee from the filthy debris of the land I reside in. Provided all the proper papers to stay for the long haul. But the law decided to stretch and give me the strong arm. Long gone from the state of my birthplace. Time for plan B, 'cause my scenario was worst case. If someone would've recognized cries of a hurt face, I never would've had to leave my country in the first place. I'm faced with limited options and choices, so it seems I'm forced to become one of the voiceless. I avoid confrontation at all costs. I don't want to get tossed to that border I once crossed. Though I'm exhausted from mean stares and profiles. When I look back, I know it'll all be worthwhile. So I smile and sweat to get by, 'cause my purpose here is something I just can't let die. Here for survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say here for survival, not survival. We don't deny you, don't deny us. We're just survivors walking this lonely road. Say
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you. How are you?
The microphone is way over there.
I hear you.
There's some survival-based saving throws going on in my ear.
Yeah.
So,
that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm set now.
Yeah, there was a. How are you doing, sir?
Too soon to tell this time
Too
of the
soon.
morning.
Yeah.
I haven't run all the diagnostics till about noon, and then I can tell you how I am.
I have a question, Grim. Have you ever like jogged? Are you a jogger? Have you ever been a jogger or anything like that?
No, I got in track until I caught asthma in Hawaii, and then pretty much nothing ever since.
How was that when you were doing track?
I loved it, man. I got third in the baton or whatever, but like there was this one point when like I couldn't feel my legs anymore, and so it was so much like flying.
Wow. Yeah. How old were you when you were doing track? When you were
tracking? I went to Hawaii when I was 9. So it was somewhere between 9 and 11, probably 10.
Yeah, that was young. So was it like a team like going out, or was it just like what?
Passing the baton. So like that metaphor got baked in real good.
Doing relay.
Yeah, where you got to stand there and wait and watch your team as they're running toward you, and it's like, oh, how much am I gonna have to make up for this jackass? You know, very exciting.
I've got an embarrassing story. It's a little embarrassing. My senior year in high school, I was on the 4x800, and I was spot. Like I was like one of the few white guys on the team. But the coach, I think, felt sorry for me.
Whoa! I don't see why you need to bring skin color into this at all. I'm offended. What does spot even mean?
So, I just remember on one of the newspaper pictures, I was the only white guy, it was me and a guy named Jack are the only white guys in the whole team.
Well, thanks for your Alabama racism, but what the hell does spot mean? A white spot on a black dog? I got you. Okay.
Well, and I don't know how it's racism. So if it is racism, please tell me.
Ethnocentrism then.
I think about skin color, and I've been around skin color my whole life. So
you're baked in the what do they call it? Systemic racism. It's the water it's the murky water of the bog you grew up in.
Yeah, I mean, there's some arguments. There's some arguments for it for sure, and I think there's some good arguments for it.
Can you throw me down for a minute? I got a cat situation.
Yeah.
So I'll jump when I'm back.
Sounds good. All right. So I'll tell the track story when Grizz goes back. Let's see. Guile, hey YouTube. That's an interesting picture. That looks like, it reminds me of when I went to New Mexico. Yeah. Looks like Native American artwork. Here with the kid lurking. Was just listening to your last video a bit. Oh, that's cool. I don't know if it was Grizz's or mine, but let's see. There we go. Aztec deity, yes. He has his foot in the mirror and a hand over his mouth. Aztec deity. Foot in a mirror. Interesting. All right. I think Grizz is ready.
Close enough.
There he is.
Once I jump, I go like this, so the host knows I'm ready. Until I do that, I'm just almost ready.
So, anyways, my senior year on this 4x8 team, I was like the 5th fastest in the 800 on our team, but the coach, I was a senior, and they like to be nice. Plus, the other guy who was faster than me, who wasn't on the team, he had other events.
That's what I thought you meant by spot. Like they threw me in when there was a spot.
Kind of. That is kind of. But what was embarrassing about it was that I was the third leg, and I was handed the baton with like 100 meters of distance in front of everyone else. And I managed by the end, when I finished, to have someone like 50 meters ahead of me. I got caught. Everybody's yelling at me because it looks so bad, and you're getting hunted down by by this very fast person who's probably running like 153, and I'm running like maybe a 202, 203, and hand it off. And the guy, and it just so happens the other team, they had just put their fastest person on the third leg just to make it exciting or something, because our guy ended up coming back and.
Or maybe it was systemic racism. And they were like, we really need a win for that other team. Put your slowest dumb guy third for us and your fastest third for them.
Oh, man.
It's all puppetry. It's all orchestrated, man.
So your Marcion video. I mentioned Marcion. Yeah. So what did you run whenever, like, in the relay?
What
was
position?
it like how far did you run? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Me and my memory are very interesting, and that was before I met Sachet.
So I just
hold on before you redirect. You brought the word Marcion was said, and I just started watching your Jacob Addicted to Seeking video, and Jason with Jason, and I wanted to know if you saw that quest I gave you in the Discord.
The quest was to find a physicist who can disprove,
or a mechanical engineer, probably, right?
Right. I've asked mechanical. I mean, I know a guy at NASA. I know a guy who's a mechanical engineer, graduated from Vanderbilt. I try to get people to help disprove these things.
Right, and I want to spin this to a conversation about free will.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, like, in their reality, like, regardless of the story about how Jason got the product, okay? Just throw that aside. The product itself is revolutionary. Like, if the physics are right, then it's kind of like he who controls the spice. And it's also like a device that's characterized in the Book of Dune as what Liet was doing, or Liet. I don't know how people pronounce it. It's going to be different for everybody who reads it, probably. Liet Keynes, he was the imperial ecologist sent to Dune, and the Fremen were the Fremen, but he integrated with the Fremen in his, like, as studying the ecology. And he basically came up with a device that does the same thing. So that's why I think your branding of the chi, which is okay, we could get you a lot farther if you called it like the Liet Kynes device or just the Liet device. I think if you haven't read Dune, you should probably read it and see if I'm not wrong. Because one of the things I like to hear and get told a lot is, you're not wrong. And then there's usually a but. I don't really, that part doesn't get through most of the time. But so if there's anybody that's seeing this, we're looking for, we got a guy with a crazy notion, and we just need somebody to look at it and see the obvious flaw that everybody else overlooked.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's just, it's fresh eyes situation.
And that's the end of that video that I released this morning, was basically me telling Jason, is like, I've been through this before where I've had my hope and my faith and the meaning in my life shattered. I've had it happen a couple times. So this could happen. And yeah, and we're okay with that. If someone would please come shatter our meaningful life.
It's like, free us from this delusion, because it's too beautiful to let go of.
Yes.
But let me spin it toward free will and reality tunnels for a second.
Please.
Like, but like, say I'm here to have a certain, I came to Earth, I'm in this reality tunnel. And like in my reality tunnel, Jesus comes back. That's the ride I'm on. So like, while I can share the cognitive, the computing power it takes to generate the world, because the parts of the narrative are the same, right? So say you're in one where humans end up going to Mars.
Okay.
In that same time frame. And the time frame that Jesus comes back in the one I'm in, humans go to Mars in the one you're in. Like at this point, we can share everything. But there are facts in existence in mine that do not exist in yours, that I might see, that you don't see and can't see. And so like forces will be at play when I come and ask you to look, hey, look at this thing that I can see, that it's not in your reality. So like excuses and whatever will just have you never look, so that we can stay in the same tunnel. Because if you look, then you don't see it and your reality diverges, or you see it and you come into mine. But as long as you don't look, we're both in the same one.
I don't know what you mean, Gal. Do you know what this is, Bruce?
I can try and say it, but that's as far as it goes. Anakantivada. Anakantivada.
But with a question mark.
Anakantivada.
There you go. So when you're explaining, basically, so we can aim at something big, and
this aim, I think, is like before pre-incarnative, and the we you're thinking of is the one that's separated and in the game already. So like,
okay,
the decision of what narrative what ride we're going on, we make before we meet the us here.
So you had an experience where you were watching television and you were in a space where you could see that the interpretation could be taken. There's maybe an infinite ways to interpret this character on the television, right? And so if I have developed a muscle to be able to see more interpretations, then that's kind of my view. But then, yes, maybe even most people would have this, as I think the word you said is like this pre-incarnate like view that like, I don't know.
This is tying it into the Bob's the Burger thing is hard, because when I'm talking pre-incarnative, I'm talking basically spiritual self, like whatever you were before you were born, decided what ride you'd be on while you were alive.
Okay.
Anakavata. Bring up the other one again real quick. Anakantavada is the blind elephant game.
Anakantavada.
The blind elephant parable. Okay, but so to try the Bob's Burger tie-in.
That's a hard thing to do. Like, that's not what we do. Humans don't do that normally. And you had that, like, it was rare for you to experience that, right? That's not
okay.
normal.
Let's take the experience and like look at it from two different blind guys. There's the one of which is the one I actually do, right? Is my actual take on it as this blind guy. But okay, so what happened was, if you don't know, I was poisoned with a mushroom and
intoxicated.
And that the intoxication was the result of a poisoning. Somebody slipped some in my Gatorade so I could swallow the nasty tasting stuff. And then I was poisoned. And I ended up lying on the couch, hissing and sputtering. It's like there are tics in me that are normally suppressed that come out when that's one of them. And so I'm there, and at some point I'm like, what do you do with like morally, what do you do with a broken robot that's like, it's doing its robot thing, but it's clearly broken and not ever going to get anywhere. And I at that point I decided you just let it run itself down, which might be why I'm still alive. And then I pointed my head toward the television, and this cartoon show called Bob's Burgers was on. And Bob was on the screen, and I assume he was in a costume. Because like they dress him up. It's like they do flashback scenes that aren't flashing back. They're flashing to like the characters in different metaphorical positions. Like Bob is a cop, or Bob is Santa Claus, and so from my perspective, what happened was before my brain finished figuring out what it was seeing, I was seeing all the various suggestions of what my brain was throwing out, and then which one it actually was is normally what is like the screen. Does that make sense? So like my brain's all
say it one more time. I think I'm following, but I want to make sure.
Okay, so like say three of us are looking at a thing, and it flashes, and we all make a guess. It was like that. It was like my brain was guessing at what it was seeing, and I was seeing all the different guesses. Where normally I'm only presented with what the decision of the guessing is. When they finally figure it out, they're like, "Oh nope, he's in the Santa costume." That's the only one I normally see.
Yeah.
But due to the poisoning, I was seeing all sorts of them.
Yeah.
I was seeing all the guesses. That's what I thought. That's how I call it busted down to pretest.
I've had similar experiences, so it might be confusing to people who haven't had a similar experience, but yeah, that's to me that's agnosticism. Like that's the goal of being an agnostic is being able to somehow be free of the immediate jumping of a conclusion or the jumping to an interpretation of the sense data.
I think if you change that to telos instead of goal, it'll convey better. Now, the alternative viewpoint is that I am a being that travels through infinite numbers of realities, like the character Griffin in Men in Black 3. Like something happens in the scene, and he's like, well, if we're in this reality, we're going to be fine. But if we're in the other reality, that guy's going to burp, and then there's going to be a huge explosion over there. So he's like, can see multiple possible realities. So like that, I could have been cycling through all the different realities in which I was lying on that couch watching Bob's Burger. And in the different realities, different episodes were on. So like, one of the realities, I was watching the cop episode, and I could go down that reality and like cling to it. Or in one episode, he was dressed up as Santa Claus, so I could like slide into that reality where I'm watching the one where he's in Santa Claus. So right. That's I don't remember where we started, but that's the explanations I have.
Oh, we started with kind of the notion where this free will investigation that you want to that sounds interesting. And trying to somehow bring those together. And I haven't like for the people who haven't had the experience of maybe breaking free from the grip of the conditioning, right? That's
if they're still in their first draft frame.
Right. What's interesting, another interesting notion is you might all of a sudden like come out of an experience and say, I'm enlightened. And you've just come out of your first draft and have not realized that this can happen like maybe an infinite number of times, right? Like but yeah, just coming out of that first one though, it's an amazing experience. The difference between 0 and 1 is infinite. So it is infinite, but
right.
But you can fool yourself into thinking, I know, like, and you have an answer, and I found it. Something like that.
My first blog I ever started on the internet, the title was "The Answers." I don't know. I think it was early 20s, but that was the here are the answers to the questions nobody's asking.
I created a character on World of Warcraft called Answers, And I went around the city yelling, "I have the answers." Nobody cared. Just-
The telos didn't involve the answers.
nobody cares about the answers. People want to talk about the problems. Guile, I remember seeing a lot of eyeballs. Hand orange covering eyes.
That he's trying to use an emoji that does this.
Okay. Hand orange covering eyes.
That was the most disturbing thing about Vampire Hunter D for me. Was that like he had a mouth in his hand
Okay.
and like eyes in hands? Those freak me out too.
Yeah. I've seen that imagery, but I don't know the reference to the Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, that's pretty age specific anime.
So at one point I had considered that something like mushrooms, mind altering substances would be the answer, right? Because we're
They are.
we're trapped. Like I had the experience of being trapped. That there was the big ego.
Do you remember The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
So I've watched it. I didn't read it. Similar with Dune, I watched it. I didn't read it. I'm a Brandon Sanderson. I got a lot of new
first and foremost. When it comes to watching Dune, if you watch the new one, you're watching a really messed up programmed one. Lynch's is pretty good. Lynch's extended cut is phenomenal.
Okay.
But read the books if you can. If like
I can. I
couldn't. No. You don't know if you can.
Well, yeah, I did start it, and then I was like, man,
like your brain can cycle through all the words in Dune, but that doesn't mean you can read Dune.
Okay. I get that.
I did the first one. I mean, I made it. The second one, they kind of lost me. By the third one, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a challenge.
It's a hard read, yeah. I think you have to be at a certain level of mental or physical or spiritual development to be able to process what Frank Herbert was laying down. But yeah. It's intense.
That's an interesting point about, you walk in a path and along that path, you might be needing something at a certain point at the path that you didn't need previously. Maybe you don't need in the future. And it's like, that's what occurred to me when, I go on YouTube and, give my attention and then I have to remember that it's like, I'll sometimes say, this isn't what I need, but then I have to remind myself, it's like, well, I may have needed it before, I may need it in the future. And there are many other people who have their own paths. And so I have to remind myself of that.
And maybe you're there because someone needs you to be there.
Yeah. Well, I think, I like a subscribe, a comment can help.
A comment can change a life, bro.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I've found that can change someone's life more than like a new person. And
you've changed my life, Grim Gross.
For the better. We entwined. I'm glad it's for the better. That's impressive. Oh. My service is a cautionary tale.
Yeah. So what do you think about this Randos United channel and the move? I guess there was a move from Facciarecci to here.
That I'm happy about.
I think.
Unfortunately, I don't know how much of what was carrying the Just Chattings was Federecci's core audience. So it's a good play, but it's going to be a bumpy ride, maybe.
Yeah. I got to talk to Mo, and he's a nice character, and I just offered to help. So we'll see how this thing turns out. And my questions were kind of like, I told him, I said, I don't like stereotypes, and I don't like calls to violence, and whether it's real or fake or a joke, I'm not a big fan of. Like I try to avoid them, and I may do them, right? But if I do them and someone points it out, I'll say, yeah, I really shouldn't be doing things that might encourage violence and doing things that will cast a stranger as someone they are not, right? I don't want to be doing that. But I don't know what like the rules here are. Like maybe one rule is like I shouldn't play people's music that'll get the channel banned or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a good rule, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But as things grow, they have to like. I do a lot of flotilla, sea, ocean metaphors.
Yeah.
It's like the sea of information.
Yeah, and there's this thing called estuary, and
No. I'm just.
No?
It's. I guess it maps to water good, and so I've been using boats to understand us on it, and
Yep.
like what this is right now is like a dinghy. And so you don't have the staff, the first officer, to be like, "Sir, we don't play that music here."
Well,
But like, as if it's fed attention and can grow and manifest into something, then like those protocols of, "Hey, okay, you're new, but here's what you can't do," or "This is why we don't do this and that," and those will show up. They'll come over time.
Well, if Paul Vanderklay hopped in and shared a link and said, "I'm going to do a just chatting on this stream," it would immediately get more subscribers, and that kind of thing could happen, So I'm not too worried about it.
If randos can make it, I don't think Paul would come in until after it's been doing this for a bit. I mean, he might drop in, but not do one,
Yeah.
Until it's obvious that it's not going to be like a no holds barred thing he didn't want to associate with. Like it's got to exist long enough for him to see it's not something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a risk, I guess, reputation risk, things like that. Is that what you're?
Even if it's not, it's like he has to embody discretion and wisdom to the extent that he can, and so taking those precautions where like it's like no harm. Not the weight of the fact that he can come in and do that, like the responsibility of bearing that weight is to do so, judiciously. And so while it's not like he has it, I don't think it hasn't occurred to him that like he could come on and really help this thing out. Yeah. Even at this point, I think it's like he would know that as soon as he knew it existed.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah, this theory of mind thing is a theory of mind that I lack. It's helpful for me to get as many perspectives as possible, right? For me, a perspective is like the thing that grips us that, maybe can get shattered with a dose. But so it's helpful for me because, it's hard. From my perspective, it's like, well,
I don't know why. I don't see why he hasn't done that yet. Is he blind to it? Like that?
I've offered to try to connect him with people who could have a respectful conversation about the topic. And he has actually liked like one of my responses where I've talked about, I like to put the phrase out there that if I get caught growing cannabis and psilocybin and practicing medicine with these plants, that I could be locked in a cage and separated from my family, right? I like to point that out. Like, that's the world we're in. But and he liked, and when I make that kind of point, he has liked it one time, right? So he's got love in his heart. It's just, I think he's probably, he's trying not to harm people. That's right. He's trying not to harm people.
Like his attention to that, I'd say, is the same thing as you, like in the perspectives. Like it's the beholder thing. You see things I don't, and if whatever we're talking about makes you bring that to me, the thing you saw I didn't, then you're bringing a gift to the camp. You're like bringing Camelot, you came back from the dark place with the treasure. You're bringing meat from the camp, like you went hunting and you're bringing meat. Your meat is what you saw that I didn't, my blind spot.
Yeah, and we can share perspectives with each other. And then there's a question for me is like, at some point, it's like, can there be a way to change the world, right? Such that I could grow psilocybin cannabis and
you're constantly changing the world,
right? I mean, it's sometimes, this is the point I made to Jason this morning, is that sometimes it just seems very slow, right?
So like, no, it's like you're either for the better or the worst. Your impact is constant. Like you want to take your aim and direct your focus toward a specific project to accelerate the rate or the amount of impact in world change you feel you're making. But like that comment you made to the grocery clerk when you were checking out your groceries has like so many ripples that you're blind to how you're already changing the world.
I remember.
But
go ahead.
I wanted to talk about that specific topic. This how do we fix what's broken with regards to throwing people in cages for things they shouldn't be thrown in cages for, or we determine they shouldn't be thrown in cages for. And for me, the root of it is looking into the historical accuracy of the decision making by one of the most powerful forces in the land, known as the Supreme Court, particularly with regards to cannabis. See, here's the problem with intelligence and lack thereof. Like, it's easy to convince people these days, especially, that the legalization of cannabis is a good idea. However, it is not a good idea. What the good idea is the decriminalization of cannabis, because it never should have been illegal in the first place, and it was schemed by power players and robber barons with weight and influence with the Supreme Court. And so what do we do with the decisions we've been basing our precedent on for infinitum were corrupt and corrupted? Like the root cause of the problem is way down deep in our history, in our foundational documents and the motives behind them.
I'm with you. And I try to go even further. Like, you know, you can do, there's these 5 whys. You can say, well, why? And then why did that happen? And I've tracked it back to, we decided to create a law that will prohibit a behavior. Now and then I think, well, don't you want people to not murder? And shouldn't we prohibit that behavior? And then I'm thinking, well, do you have to? Like, could you have a justice system where a murderer receives the right attention and response without a law which prohibits it, right? And that's kind of where I get to, is like, maybe we even need to reconsider the whole legal system itself, like the way we do it.
Well, what's your understanding of justice?
Yeah, this is where there was some conversation in your Discord server. I personally like to have the opportunity to be understood and to have influence and to be able to help as much as possible. And so if I'm in a world where I can't be understood and can't help, that seems to be unjust. And so like
No. When I ask you about what's your take on justice,
right,
you go way personal specific.
Yeah.
No.
Well, why not?
What's the telos of justice? It doesn't properly answer my question. Is why not? I'm sure there's other reasons.
The telos of justice is for me is that there is a harm reduction and error correction, like through error correction.
All right, but
education, aka education, a justice system without education, rehabilitation, and education. Yeah.
Let me do it this way. Why is it become the government's responsibility that I killed your brother?
So my answer to that's based on like the this book called Indian Wars, and so you don't want like blood feuds where people just keep on retaliating endlessly, just going back and say, it's like you killed my sister, and I'm going to go over to your community and kill somebody. And you're right.
So instead, we involve a third party,
right,
to settle the situation, and we both I say, I take my side of why I killed your brother, and you take it. This mother killed my brother, and we take all of the weight of that, and we give it over to the justice system. And then we agree to abide by the result of the justice system so that we don't have blood feuds for eternity.
And the key is that there's a claim of injury, right? You have a claim of injury, which you can take to the system and say, I'm claiming injury, right?
And then it becomes a problem that I didn't take my claim of injury from your brother to the system and instead took justice into my own hands.
And then, but the reason you might do that is because there was no way to communicate the claim of injury within the system, right?
Or there was no expectation of, like, one of the most.
I mean, you can have like people get angry and do things without thinking and kill somebody. But you can also have people say, I have no recourse. There's nothing I can do in the situation and no one's listening, and I can't, and nobody cares. So I'm going to go take this into my own hands, Batman style, right? And the reason that happens is because, like, the root of why does it happen is, well, it's because people feel like they have been injured and feel like they have no opportunity to have that injury acknowledged and some solution or come out of it, right?
I like that they brought up the monkeys in the Discord. Like the one who like didn't realize he was injured until he saw the other monkey get the grape.
Yeah.
And then his claim of unfairness injury, like the equality of pay.
Yeah, it's a relativity thing. Like you don't like if you're raised, for example, poor, you might appreciate some things that another person raised in like a wealthy paradise might would not appreciate. That takes it for granted, right? This is a kind of the perspective. But
it takes a better theory of mind for the monkey who got the grape to get upset about the cucumber situation. Is essentially what you said about the growing up poor and rich, right? The monkey who's getting the grape, it has a lot harder to, like, you're getting something, I'm getting something. Why? Like, the monkey has to realize, A, that this grape is way better than that cucumber, and B, that guy over there is getting screwed out of a grape. And if I act angry like he is, will I not get a grape anymore?
Yeah. Well, I think the argument against kind of my point that Jeffrey is making, and I'll put Jeffrey's name up, a guy will mention Jeffrey, was that, it's subjective. And
that's in the Discord. Point, Jeffrey in the Discord.
Jeffrey in the Discord.
The Broken Clock Tower. I'm sure he's elsewhere as well.
Yeah. But I don't know if subjectivity mattered. That's all. Zach, what's up, brother man? Said to Guile, hey, Zach. Hello, Zach. I'm not being a good host. I appreciate you pointing out.
What say the Deadwood Dandies on justice, Grim? I can pose a question in the Gem General chat and see what comes out of it, but I can't speak for him at this point. We're only on episode 5.
Yeah,
I did want to throw out, like, when Game of Thrones came out and everybody got swept up into that, so it's a good it's got a lot of mimetic gravitas and is a good reference. One of the things that struck me most about particularly Dany's rule was how much ruling she had to do. Where the ruling was when you sat on the fucking throne and like listened to all the injury claims, and how much of ruling that used to be, and how separated our rulers are from that ruling. The same way they're separated from executions, the way that Ned Stark wasn't.
Phoebus, go send PVK over here. We'll do.
Phoebus asked, questions. No PVK Q&A today.
Is he? I will cancel it I'll drop out if he starts one up. But
we don't know. We haven't been advised. He's been gone all week because I guess he's going on vacation too next week. So when he goes on vacation, we get a week of less videos beforehand. Plus he goes on vacation, but he might have been loading the chamber with stuff for on vacation.
Yeah.
But I would guess not, given those rumors about what's going on in his meat space life.
So Grim, another question about justice is, well, the ideal justice system produces what? Right? What does it look like? Like as far as
anti-entropy.
Anti-entropy?
Life is an anti-entropic affair. Like the reason we don't want blood feuds building and going for eternity is because that's a terrible waste of resources and energy.
Right.
Like our cognition exists in on the basis of energy management. Like of all the food you eat, how much of it is spent thinking, firing neurons in your brain? And when people can stress out your system, what happens is the energy that you've finally sent, like you've arranged everything to send energy up the tree of your mind to your frontal cortex where the thinking part happens. And when people stress your system, that part starts shutting down. Like you get driven into your baser desires, and because you're not getting the energy up into the thinky talky part anymore. You're down in the flesh.
Yeah, and then
And it's the same. So it's the same way with justice, and that's the goal of justice: is the maximization of getting energy up the tree. And it's human energy and human resources that they're preserving.
It seems very fractal for me, though. Like every person who is getting that stress, like it can. I've said it before. It's like it only takes one person to ruin the peace. Like every person needs to matter. Like so, the justice system would have to pay attention to every person, right? Ideally.
Well, it deals with the behaviors, the output of every person. And regarding justice, I do like that one that floats around on memes from Africa, where when somebody does something bad, they throw them in a circle and surround them and like tell them all the good stuff they've ever done.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's like when you screw up, instead of being punished, like everybody who loves you gets around you and reminds you of the good you are.
Yeah, I did that. I did that with one guy one time. I started pointing out, it's like, I remember when you did this and when you did this, you saved this guy's life. It's like, you have a lot of potential, right? Like I did that to one guy. I trying to encourage him because I knew that he was doing things I didn't like, where he was causing harm. I was like, but I've seen you do some good stuff where you've actually saved someone's life, and tried to remind him of that. So that is an interesting, that's like a rehabilitation therapy, something like that. So justice is somehow connected to rehabilitation.
I am whatever you say I am. And if you tell me long enough, I'll shape myself to be it. Yeah. Junkie whore.
All right, freedom.
Freedom.
There was a tie-in that you wanted to make at the very beginning about
free will.
Free will.
We will.
Who is Will?
I did make that tie-in. The tie-in was the whole, like, you have free will beyond your egoic free will that will give you subconscious bullshit reasons that result in you never looking at the thing I'm pointing at because of free will. That's your free will at play. And I phrased it recently in my last wonderful New Jerusalem late night special stream. Echo chambers are made of free will.
It seems like, it seems like that sounds like doublespeak to me, right?
It might not be. I'm out. Thank you, Gavin. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless.
Thank you. You too. All right, people. There is a link. I can share it again. Let me check my schedule. There's no fires. And I have about 45 minutes. Unless a fire shows up. I am a firefighter. All right. Hop on in. Phlebas. Come tell me about Phlebas. Probably doing work that makes noise, so I understand. Let's see. In honor of the General Grim Grizz, we'll do Feeding the Ducks. Yeah, they're welcome to hop in. Welcome. I'll put your message up on the screen if you want to interact. Here we go. Yeah, maybe we need to put a click the bell icon for the media on the video. Yeah, so maybe in addition to or instead of this Randos United image, there could be some branding that says click the bell to get notified when we go live. That's a good idea. I can report that idea to my people. Let's see. It's hard to get the link out to every channel in Discord. You're right. Yeah, and I appreciate the effort. Here's one thought I've had though, is if we had a good way of getting the link out to everyone who's interested, then you wouldn't be able to share the link. And if you weren't able to share the link, then would that be a good or a bad thing? I put out an idea for how maybe Paul Vanderklay might not need to update his template with the link to the Discord server. But then it's like, well, maybe Paul Vanderklay likes updating and likes having that interaction with the Bridges of Meaning people where they make contact regularly and like kind of a ritual. So sometimes rituals, they might not be most efficient, but maybe they are meaningful nonetheless. But yeah, there's technical solutions to this problem, and I appreciate you sharing the link. And I could talk about the technology as well. How would you like your notification? Would you like an app on your phone? And would everyone have that app on their phone to receive the notification? Would you like a text message, an email? I hear noises. Discord. So I shared a link to the Eric Weinstein, Joe Rogan video in an extraterrestrial channel on the Jacob's Ladder Discord server. I could only get 15 minutes in. It was 4 hours long. It was just the wrong spirit for me. But whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm going to put some more music back on. This would be cool if we had our musicians like create music that we could play in the background in between breaks and whatnot, instead of the music provided by StreamYard. So I think we do have some of that. I don't know what Saint Bagu is. Some background. Yeah, I don't know who uploaded it or anything. I'm just assuming that we won't be taken off of YouTube if we use it. Yeah, Randos United don't have much sub. That's a good point. Looks like the general has an update, perhaps about justice. DJ Todd, find it pretty entertaining that the appearance of institutional justice, the trial, is the very thing which allowed a guilty, lying murderer to go free. Yeah, and what about when the justice system does the murder? It's only murder if you guys do it. He may not know fully of the copyright stuff, so it's up to all the regulars to fill in gaps on that. Yeah, I think we'll get a warning as well, hopefully. They give us warnings, and we can always hop. What's cool is if we actually have a members list, maybe even an app or sign in, then you could actually just say, hey, we created a new YouTube channel. here you go. So it's nice having a members list and a way to communicate that's not dependent on YouTube or Discord or those kinds of things. Burn dropped PVK's Germany Q&A like a boss. Does that mean I need to go? Let me see what's happening on Burns. Burn power. It's got the burn power. An Adramist YouTube channel. 19 minutes ago. Paul Vanderklay and Burn Power Q&A. Bridges of Meaning Festival. August 2022. Cool. Let's see. Can I play some? Let's try it. And let's see how I can do this. And I've never shared in here. Present. Oh man, let me plug in my other monitor. I'll be right back. And all right. Do browser tab and make sure share sound is checked. Thank you, Grimgriz. I do have a second monitor. I was going to pull this over. I just never use the second monitor. And then present, share screen. Okay. Brave tab. There we go. Share tab audio. Share. Add the stream. We'll do it live.
Okay, guys. Say hello. Just a little greeting for my channel.
Hello, greeting for your channel.
Yeah, that one's not getting on there. But just say hello. Greeting. Okay, so what we have here is the problem of literalness.
We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
All right, team. How ethical is it to steal views from Burn? I don't know if Burn cares or not. And then one thing I've noticed, it would be nice, like, if there were chapters, but like, it'd be really cool if the questions were in there, right? You know, there's plenty of work for people to do. If and I have done a little bit of this like over a year ago, but let's let it keep going. And then let me know if you think I'm doing anything wrong, please.
Greetings and welcome to The Anadromist. This is Burn Power coming to you on a nice cool day here in Tbilisi, Georgia. And what we're going to do is present one more piece from the Bridges of Meaning Festival, featuring a question and answer session with Paul Vanderklay and myself. Some of you may have already seen this over on Paul Vanderklay's channel. I'm purposely waiting a while to put this out just so that you can remind yourself again, or if you're one of those people who haven't seen it there, you have a chance to see it here. So let us go. It was in Landau, Germany, a smallish, medium-sized city in southern Germany. And
all right, Gavin, stop it.
Bridges of
Stop it,
Meaning
man.
Festival.
Gavin.
Hello, sir. Please coach me.
Here's your recommended protocols. First, since it's on display, whether or not you have, immediately thumbs up the video.
Boom.
Check in the description and whatever for timestamps. No? Okay. And he probably doesn't have it as a comment. Comments are turned off, it says? Oh my. And then jump to say minute 33 or like try and find a question and play a bit of that and then drop the link to the video in the channel.
All right.
Does that all make sense?
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's how I do, like, give them a sample to promo it.
All right.
And then you're not stealing it, you're promoting it.
Sounds good. And the number 33 is a pretty good number. Let's see what happens at 33. 33, maybe? Right there. And let me get this link. I'll share the link soon.
What we wanted best out of it, a place of protection, a place of where the best of humanity can come together, and says this will be the new heaven and the new earth.
Do we have any more questions?
So that sounded like a good answer. I'm wondering what the question was. Let's see if we can.
Isaiah 60, where the kings of the earth bring their treasures, gets built into this new city. At the end of the Bible, we don't go back to a garden. Someone refill this? Thanks.
It tells the beginning from the end, right? It tells the end from the beginning.
There's a city. And so somehow God takes this stuff and uses it. And so on one hand, shrewd as serpents, innocent as doves. Where we've got this world. We've got this stuff. We're going to make mistakes. And perhaps not all of us should use all of it. But thank you. But I don't think we have any other choice. And I think what happens in the new creation is Christ takes this stuff and says, it's the stuff I seeded. It's mine after all. I wanted you to develop it. You went off the rails a lot of ways with it, but we're going to take this into the age to come.
Yeah, Jacques Ellul makes the same point in his book, The Meaning. Jacques Ellul makes the same point in The Meaning of the City, and he says that in the beginning there was a garden, which isn't the same as saying the wilderness, because a garden is always manicured, taken care of. But the final image is the image of the New Jerusalem, which is a city. But then he points out, and the city is the place where we have been the worst. That is to say, we have thrust our fists up at God, saying, we are great. Look at the buildings we can build. Look at Dubai. It's just like, this is what we can do. We've got money, we've got power. But also, it's the place where so much crime, so much human degradation, so much tension and pressure. I mean, I've lived in New York City. I know it wears you down, a city like that. But God takes what we wanted best out of it, a place of protection, a place of where the best of humanity can come together, and says this will be the new heaven and the new earth.
Do we have any more questions? Oh, Peter.
New heaven and new earth. What's that look like? Will it be a city with a river coming out of it? Will the deserts be transformed? Look for a good spot. There we go. So that's the end of promo, I guess. And you can go check it out at the Anadromist YouTube channel with Burn Power. The power to burn. All right. Thank you for the coaching, General Grizz. I am coachable. Let's see. What else do we want to watch, people? I think Grim Grizz mentioned something that he put out recently. Give me a timestamp, Grizz. I'll promo it to this subscriber count. We'll get the subscriber count up, I believe. Drop chat link again. Copy. Yeah, I probably should pin it at the top. Wish that would happen automatically. Oh yeah, I can't unless I'm an admin on the channel, Randall's United channel. You're hosting a JC. I just chatting. Yeah, I guess that's why you need the link. So come on in and chat. Four minutes. I don't know what this is. What is 4 men? 4 minutes of waiting for someone to come hop in and then go click on someone's content in the corner. I could promo this little corner thing. I like tech. Let's see. I will present right. This little corner of the internet. Kingdom of heaven. Pajot. Sort by newest. There goes St. Couch Potato. Yeah, this is a Ryan Lewis. This is his tool. He created it to help himself and shared it so that it can help others as well. Thank you, Ryan. And Raj and Hazi and Nate. It's cool that they get the pronouns right, or not pronouns, but the proper names. The transcript does that. Where is kingdom? Is there a way to search for it? Let's see. Control F. Kingdom. There we go. Oh, this is a long one. Oh.
For the church, right there in the name, right, universal, both have a role to play until the kingdom arrives, basically. In which case, I think we both agree that at that point, everyone is the people of God.
That for sure. At that point, everyone is the people of God. At that point, God, the prophets use the words that Egypt become my people, Ami, which is usually only used for the Israelites, and the Assyrians are the hands of my creation. Like at that point, there is again a recognition that all are made in God's image, and these are all God's people.
Very quiet audio. It's loud for me. Let's see. Remove. Yeah, so Ryan Lewis has had, I think, 2 videos with Karen Wong with the Meaning Code YouTube channel. Check it out. Get some clips. Share it in the Broken Clock Discord tower. I don't know the right name. Let me get it right. Let's see. Stop screen share. Yeah, you got to go to the Broken Clock Tower Discord server, and there you can share clips of the things that you think are important. Yeah, I don't know why my screen share was quiet. It was quite loud in my ears. Oh, I probably didn't have the tab share. All right, thank you, General Griswold Grimm. Yeah, I like to help. So if y'all can teach me how to be of better service, that would be good. And I do think I'm coachable. I've been told that. So yeah, it's interesting. In my video I released today is on the Hero LFG YouTube channel. I mentioned like it would be nice to cast Satan and the demons into the lake of fire. Like maybe that's what happens, and that's how we all become God's people. I'm not exactly sure. I am sure I have met Satan and the demons, so I'm cool. I think if they get cast in the lake of fire, that'd be a good thing. It would help. Let's see. The parables of the kingdom. Yeah, basically, I think the teaching is that the evil is allowed to be alongside the good, and they get separated at the harvest. But I don't really think that. I think I'm with Nate on I'm a bit of a universalist. Like I kind of excuse people. That's why I didn't get the whole free will thing with Grimgris. I do feel like Satan and demons have a lot of power, and I don't think it's the humans' fault if they're possessed by these powerful powers and principalities. And I think it actually is happening to all of us to some degree. I don't think anyone is completely free from the unholy spirits. And if you believe you are, that's a sign. Navigating patterns. Patterns and pirates. Let's see. I need to share screen, don't I? I haven't even added it. Yeah, so I'm basically just using this little corner.com, and then I searched for Kingdom of Heaven up at the top, and then I did it on a Mac. It's a Command F. On a Windows, it's Control F, and then I searched for Kingdom, and then it begins to highlight things so that I can see the transcripts. And then I'm doing a Command plus or Control plus here to just make the text bigger. But yeah, if you guys are interested in anything, I've got about 15, 20 more minutes. If you want to hop in the chat, I'll share the link. Copy. And if you want me to investigate something interesting or want to coach me up, I'll do that as well. Oh man. Transfigured. Kingdom didn't highlight here. I wonder why.
The age of the Antichrist. And then there would be all of that tribulation stuff, like a Tim LaHaye book. And then Jesus would come back and he would establish the kingdom of heaven here on earth, that Jesus, with his resurrected followers, right? And that was the hope that Christians were waiting for, was the imminent return of Jesus, the resurrection of our bodies, and the dwelling in the kingdom here on earth. But once we start to turn towards the Constantinian period, that view doesn't make as much sense because that sort of premillennialism, just like premillennialism back then, just like in American premillennialism, it often views the government as probably the source of evil that will usher in this evil Antichrist period. But that doesn't fit well if the empire is now Christian, right? Because then are we going to say that this Christian empire is going to be the vehicle of the Antichrist? That doesn't seem right. So the eschatology gets changed in that the kingdom of God is in some sense on earth a mirror of the heavenly kingdom of God. And that really then the goal is to get to heaven when you die and be in the kingdom of God with Jesus in heaven. And that the role of the government and the church on earth is to basically shepherd souls to the good place instead of to the bad place. And Constantine talks about that, and Eusebius talks about that, where there's sort of this dual stack city of God, city of man thing, right? Like Augustine. And so there isn't this hope for Jesus's imminent return. I'm not saying Athanasius does believe in the return of Christ. He mentions.
So, yeah, I would call myself premillennialist. It's impressive to me that, yeah, I'm impressed whenever like Sam, I've heard Sam do it just then. I've heard Paul Vanderklay do it. It's when you can try to get into the mind of the people. And so he's trying to explain how the people in the empire could avoid feeling bad about themselves. They don't want to feel like they're the Antichrist. There's like some kind of concern that's like, am I the Antichrist? So then, so that they can have a comfortable experience, they don't have the premillennialist view. So I tend to have the premillennialist, like the idea that there's going to be a kingdom and a resurrection. Like I think something like that will happen in the future. So, but yeah, I'm impressed with the kind of the ability to get into someone else's mind, to explain how a belief system can change and emerge. And notice it's just different than the truth, right? The beliefs change because people avoid feeling uncomfortable. They want to live comfortably, and so they change their views. But yeah, the resurrection, the way I look at it is all these. There's a lot of miracles that happen because of technology. Like I'm actually talking to some people, and if you were to go into the past and try to explain this situation, it could be described as a miracle. This is the Arthur C. Clarke sufficiently advanced tech. This is the quote: "Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And so, yeah, I like to consider the belief that the technology is being created, the physics of the world is being discovered, and that will facilitate the resurrection of the dead. That's because I believe in a world where we can access the hard drive, the Akashic records, and we can then create the technology to do the resurrection. Raj. Yeah. So if we want to make the world a reflection of the kingdom of heaven, then there's a question. A good question is like, what does the kingdom of heaven look like? Let's see. That's going to be Jacob probably.
Criticisms of Christianity that Judaism has is too much of an idea of the afterlife, too much detail, and really this. I mean, so in Jewish terms, the idea is that there is a kingdom of heaven, and our job is to try to make this world, as much as we can, a reflection of that kingdom on earth, while at the same time having faith that despite our incapacity to do it perfectly, our inability to make it really to complete the work, that we can have some participatory aspect to it. And that sounded like a lot like what you were saying to Paul Vanderklay.
So it's just interesting that I pointed out it'd be nice to try to imagine what it looks like. And then Jacob points out that that might actually be a bad idea or something that's not done in Judaism, which basically means, right? I can understand that tension. It's like, how do you, like, you know, is it God's will or your will at that point? There's a tension there. But then if you just sit back and do nothing, like I've heard Jacob talk about a criticism of Jesus take the wheel and the WHEEL, not WILL. But it sounds like with regard to the kingdom of heaven, there's a thy will be done. So there's a tension between our will and the will of the powers and principalities. And I even question, like, is the God of the Old Testament, Satan? Like, I'll question that as well. I'll throw out all kinds of questions. So it could be good if Satan convinces you that you ought not be too concerned with imagining what the kingdom would look like and how we might get there. Let's see. No feedback. Nobody has any responses. Y'all are all busy working is what it is. I have about 5 to 10 more minutes. The kingdom of heaven belongs to children. What's interesting is this, the goal of humility. So if you think you know the truth, you're no longer seeking, you found it. And that is not the humble spirit. Like a child going out seeking. So but people have all these religious views, and they're even taught to have faith, and that if you don't have the right faith, you might not get to heaven. Like, that's a good trick for a deceiver to get you to believe a thing that is not good. And basically the thing that is not good is the thing where you are no longer trying to learn and grow and improve your religious views. Let's see. Let's listen to this one.
One of the things that you notice right away in the Gospels is that people were very divided about Jesus, who he was and what they thought he was about. He says the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Well, show it to us. And I think for a lot of people, when it comes to church, that's sort of their answer. Walking into church should have the same predictable results in my immediate happiness as watching a movie on Netflix or watching my favorite YouTube videos or something of this nature. Now, so much of this gets at what I've often called the great puzzle. This world is full of so much glory and pleasure, and it's also full of so much pain and toil. Should the creator God have done a better job? I mean, we imagine that he should have been maximizing our local happiness. The problem is that we can also imagine a worse world. And so really the much religious conversation over centuries has gone into this question: how can we account for the world? How can we know it? How can we know how to do the right thing? How to answer this great puzzle? Now, 2 weeks ago, we looked at the Beatitudes, and we talked about them as aporia. Blessedness seems, according to Jesus, more surprising than you would think. And the world is upside down in some ways, and Jesus is saying that he is going to put the world right. Now, last week we looked at this question of righteousness, and we got into this question: okay, what is it that makes the good cop good and the corrupt cop corrupt? What does he lack? And throughout the ancient world, there's a long conversation about this question: righteousness. Now, we should hunger and thirst for it, Jesus says in the Beatitudes, but it's not exactly easy to identify or to point out. It's a gift, but it's a gift that seems to grow through our struggles. People rightly expect churches to have more of it, and they are put off when they don't, but the relationship isn't anywhere near as linear as some people might imagine. They did an interesting study at one point of someone who would, let's say, come into a strange town not knowing anyone, and it's...
Well, I got to go soon. And I've listened last year to quite a few Bible studies, and Paul likes to point out I listened to Paul's Bible studies last year, and he likes to reference this question of the good cop and the bad cop. And the question for me is always, well, what about when the law is not good, right? What is a good cop when the law is not good? And so it throws a twist into the question, an important twist, in my opinion. And then but this question, quest I on, is what is righteousness? And I posed this one on Hero LFG. I released my video this morning of my talk with Jason, and it's like, we aren't looking for righteous people. Jason said, I never met a saint. It seems like everyone there's nobody who's completely filled with the Holy Spirit all the time. And I said, yes. I said, but we also aren't looking for saints. And we're not actually, and then another, we're not looking for saints. So that means we're not actually looking for people who can teach us righteousness that are alive today, who might be good leaders. And then if someone were to raise their hand and say, hey, I've been trying to be more righteous for decades, and I'd like to be put on a list of people who could be tested to see who's most righteous. It's like, so that I can go out and help everyone. Jason said that's a red flag, right? And there's all the, so it's convenient to the corrupt forces in the world, the powers and principalities, that we have somehow been discouraged in seeking righteousness, right? Righteous teachers, people who are alive today who can help us deal with the world we live in today, which is very different it's different from the world that Jesus was in. Here we go. Look for Elder Zosimas. All right. I got 5 minutes. Let's see if anyone in this corner has ever mentioned Elder Zosimas. And this isn't everyone in the corner. This is just the ones that, Ryan Lewis has found most interesting. And we could actually have other sites that have libraries other people create. Like you could end up with a website that actually have different libraries. Elder Zosimas. Oh man. Let's just look for Zosimas. Zosimas. Nobody's talking about Zosimas in the corner. But yeah, I'll go check it out. What about nothing is new under the sun? How do we understand that today? Well, maybe it's not true, right? Nothing is new under the sun. Maybe you could say which sun? Maybe there's other planets and stars. But yeah, I would say, I definitely, there's a bunch of good questions. How do you understand this today? But I don't, there's a lot of things people believe are true that I just don't accept. Like I'm skeptical about. So you could, but it would be hard to identify, like how would you identify the most righteous people? Because then it's like, well, what kind of tests do you run? How do you know who's the most righteous people? The one test I'd like is the people who can prophecy, people who can actually see, predict the future. I don't know if Zosimas can predict the future, but to me, that's an indication that that you are honest, that you're the kind of person that has the truth revealed, and even the truth which is outside of our normal time space. So, but yeah, that's the question I'm interested in. The quest I on is, how do you identify righteous people? How can you learn to become a righteous person? How do you know if you're a righteous person? Obviously, we're not perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to get notifications when other people do live streams. And that's it for now. I'll end with this. Dostoevsky wrestles with this, and the brothers Karamazov. Elder Zosimas is the saint in the story. All right. Yeah, we have different ideas of what a saint looks like. And maybe we could have a community of people who agrees what a saint looks like. But yeah, we avoid that kind of thing. All right. Good day. Bye-bye.